Good day, Hudson Valley. I'm your host, Lisa Caslin, and welcome to our show, where we bring you the best of what's happening and who's happening in Putnam, Dutchess, and Westchester. Have you ever felt overwhelmed, stuck, in a rut? I know we all feel that from time to time. And spring is a great time to tackle that topic. So we have a wonderful guest here today, Dr. Katarina Dolston from Scarsdale, and she's going to help us unravel our lives and help us to move forward towards the things that we really want to do and get rid of some of the things that are getting in our way. So welcome.
Thank you, Lisa.
How are you doing?
It's great to be here.
Great to have you. So let's talk about this condition. I don't know how you'd really describe it. I was sort of trying to do research, you know.
Right.
Is there a statistic to find out how many people suffer from being in a rut? I don't know. There's tons, hundreds of thousands of studies on mental health, but I couldn't find that.
Right.
So I know that you talk to people who have this issue every day. So talk a little bit about it and how prevalent is it?
Well, I think it's very common. I think it's very common. And the problem with getting stuck is that you have a view of life that puts you in a dark hole, you know, with high walls and very little light, and you're just stuck down there and you don't know how to dig yourself out of it.
Yeah.
So I think that it's pretty claustrophobic, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're dealing with it alone, it's even more difficult, right? Because you're kind of talking to yourself and you're talking yourself deeper down into the hole, right? So we need somebody to help us kind of lift out of that. So what are some of the things that you say or do with your clients that help
them? So first of all, the way I look at my clients is that we're definitely on the same page. So I'm the companion, not the guide. And one of the first things to come out of that hole is actually to think about gratitude and things that you're grateful for. Sometimes life is tough, you know, and you can focus on the smaller things of life. Right now, as you mentioned, the spring is a great time to feel the sun on your cheek and start to enjoy those small things that change your life, and that empowers you and fills you, and suddenly the walls of the hole, they kind of become much smaller and you start to see the horizon a little bit. Yeah. So that's the first step.
Okay.
That me and my clients talk about.
Okay. When a lot of people get hung up on relationships.
Yeah.
So, you know, they got married, they were in love for years, and then somebody did something to someone, and now they just can't get over this. They may have gotten divorced, but they can't move on.
Right.
They can't shake that feeling.
Right.
How do you move past something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we've all felt something similar with a friend or a sibling or a parent or, as you say, a partner. I think one of the issues that we have in our brain, and this has been proven scientifically, is that as a person, you always focus on the negative because that's a warning sign. You know, you want to recognize the guy who was mean to you so you can avoid him later. So all these negative things, they stick to you like Velcro. And all the positive things, they're much deeper below. So you really need to look for those positive things that are within you and try to remember them, think about the things that worked out for you and are actually working today that you just take for granted, and try to make them larger and deeper.
Okay. So we live in a very busy society,
right.
You know, two people usually working in the home, managing children, you know, some of us have older parents that we have to take care of
right.
as well, a lot of demands. People who are single parents, that just adds a whole other layer.
Yep.
So, you know, it's easy to say, okay, well, you know, just think of all the positives, but,
right.
you know, when you're living that life, it's not so easy. So.
Yep.
How do you, you know, I mean, is time management, you know, part of the things that, you know, getting more organized, I mean, really sort of rubber meets the road tactics.
Right.
How do you kind of take a step back and sort it all out so you can make time for yourself and can feel less overwhelmed?
Right. So I think, first of all, single parents are heroes in our society, right? They do everything to make life better for their kids, and they usually don't even put themselves on the list. So as you mentioned, putting time aside for yourself is really what I work with as a coach with my clients, to make sure that even if 2 minutes of meditation in the morning, 2 minutes at lunch and at dinner, it really makes a huge difference. And the best place to go is the bathroom. In your workplace or wherever it is, just go in there, plug in your app with the meditation and look at that. I think another thing is to remember that if these people who are running the train, they're pushing and pulling however way to get the train, which is the family, to move forward, if they collapse, there's nothing left for the family to work on or move in any direction. So I think it's very important they start getting on the list and try to find space for themselves. And then what I usually say is that think about a person you really care about and imagine that person being in your situation. What type of advice would you give that person? Well, it would usually be very kind and thoughtful things you would say to that person to do. When you're talking to yourself, usually you're very tough on yourself and trying to find faults and things like that. But to be kind to yourself and thoughtful is really the only way to empower yourself.
Good advice, good advice. So, procrastination. This is one of my favorites. You know,
Right.
some of us are so bad that we put off even feeling better because that takes too much energy or whatever.
Right.
So procrastination is really, I think, just a bad habit. You know, after a while, it's just you're so conditioned to behaving in that way.
Yeah.
How do you break that cycle? That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. And I think maybe you were a procrastinator already doing homework. So it's an early habit that started very early on. And I think it's very much related to anxiety.
Why is that?
So when you feel you have something you need to do, you don't do it, that increases your anxiety and you feel worse about yourself and you have less energy to take that thing you need to do, the homework, to finish that. So it's a very vicious circle that goes around and just increases your anxiety and increases the procrastination. So with clients that have that, we put up a pretty tough schedule.
Okay.
To put time aside when to do these awful things. Because it's been proven that when you have this much anxiety and pushing things off, it's almost painful, physically painful. It's been measured that it feels painful to sit down and do those things. So you just have to endure that pain.
Gotcha.
And to kind of start a new pathway in your brain where you start sitting, you endure the pain, you sit there, you do it, and suddenly you start feeling a little better about yourself. And that anxiety starts to diminish and the pain disappears. So by scheduling out when you do these and how long, and you know, you look at the timer, it's 2 minutes left, and suddenly you've done it and you feel so much better. And that's one way to get over that hurdle.
Yeah, I think, you know, the same thing can be said for exercise, right? And we're going to talk about that later, but that's another one. You have to just push through and do it, and then eventually it starts to feel better, right?
I think also that to value yourself in a different way, you know, not to look upon these things as punishment, but to look upon it as something you do for yourself.
Yeah.
So that really changes the scenario, you know.
Okay. So some folks can't move forward because something very bad has happened to them, or maybe they have low self-esteem.
Right.
So, you know, there's a fine line between being, you know, a personal and professional coach and also, you know, a licensed therapist. And you have to be a medical doctor, right? Licensed in Sweden, so that obviously helps. But, you know, how do you get through those things if somebody is traumatized or, they have other issues like that?
Right. No, I think in those cases, it's really important to work with a therapist, a mental health professional, to look at those things that happened in the past that are difficult. And as we said before, negative things really stick to your brain and they grow over time if you don't work with them. As a coach, you usually don't work with those old past things. You work with the today, what is working right now, how can I make it work better, what other tools do I need to get to move forward. So I work with some clients who see a therapist and deal with the past, and then we work together to move forward. So I'm the companion for the future and today, and the therapist is the companion for the past. So that's one way to do it.
Okay. So have you seen transformations occur in your practice where people have come in and they're, you know, just scattered all over the place and you've helped them pick up the pieces and they're doing what they need to do?
Yeah, that's actually one of the most rewarding things in my profession. I love it because the client, as you said, usually is overwhelmed, comes into a position where they feel that they don't know what step to go and in what direction. And then we focus on small things that you can do to go towards that goal. And we often talk about that being a journey. So deciding to think about life as something privileged and a privileged journey that you're going to do. So the same way you would prepare to go to an exotic place. You don't just, you know, the day of the trip, suddenly jump on a plane and leave. The same way you would prepare to check on your passport, pack your things, think about an itinerary, check what the climate is, study up what this new exotic place has to offer you, the same way you would think about a bigger goal in your life. So it's about making it into bite-sized pieces, you know, and try it out. You don't, you know, unknown water, you don't jump in with your whole body, you do one toe at a time. And if it's unpleasant, you don't continue. And that's a learning experience too. So to think about life as a privileged journey, that means that whatever you do, whether it's an experience that's not as positive as you wanted or something that's actually surprisingly fun, those things enrich you and makes you move forward.
That's great. Okay, so before we wrap up, I just want to tie a bow on the tips because you offered a lot of great advice today, right?
Thank you.
So I think there was maybe three solid tips. Why don't you just remind the audience what they were?
Right. So the first one is to explore gratitude. Small things or large things. You're happy about your marriage, you're happy to see or listen to a bird outside. The other thing is to be as kind to yourself and give as good advice that you would give to a real dear friend of yours. And the third thing is to think about what you want to achieve as if it is a journey. So you make a piecemeals out of it, you know, little by little you move forward.
That's good. Thank you.
Those are the three tips.
So before we let you go, I know that you have a free seminar coming up in Scarsdale. Talk a little bit about that quickly, and I think we have a graphic so people have more information.
Great. Yeah, I'm offering a free seminar. The topic will be women in transition. As women, we go through a lot of transitions. You know, you have your child, you have a divorce, teenage children, empty nest, as you say, sandwich generation, things like that. And we all have things in common about that. So with this seminar, it's going to be a very participatory experience for people who come there, and we're going to talk about tools and tips how to manage change in your life.
Okay, great. And that is on May
27th, 10 a.m. at Scarsdale Women's Club.
Okay, perfect.
And please RSVP on my email.
Okay.
I think it was shown before.
It was shown in the graphic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back. We're going to talk about how to get unstuck in terms of your weight loss efforts. And we have a great guest, Dan Stockfield, who's going to come and share his story and give you all sorts of great tips. So we'll be back in a moment. Thank you. Okay, we're back. And as promised, we have our good friend and health and wellness coach, Dan Stockfield, with us today. And we're going to continue our series on health, wellness, getting unstuck with your life. It's springtime. We want to get in shape. And Dan is the perfect person to have this conversation with. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. So not only are you an expert and you help people, but you have really traveled this road yourself.
Yes.
You lost over 100 pounds, right?
I did.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell us your story. I want to hear your journey because I think that's really effective and people want to hear from somebody who's done this.
Sure, sure. So I was 39 years old. I've been obese my entire life. I had back pain, foot pain. I was sweating everywhere I went. I wore loose baggy clothes to hide my body. I'm a professional photographer and I always avoided being in photos. I had no energy. I was eating sugary foods all around the clock as my artificial energy. I wasn't sleeping very well, maybe 3-4 hours a night. I was repeatedly getting sick every 3 months with ear infections.
Wow.
When you get an ear infection when you're 39 years old, you get 104 fever, and it's just the worst thing. And I was just constantly in this rut, this cycle. I've done every kind of diet out there.
Yeah.
I would take 20 pounds off, and then on a Friday night, I said, you know, nobody knows I'm dieting, so I hit the refrigerator, and I didn't have accountability. So I was, you know, constantly taking the weight off and then putting it right back on. And you know, Saturday morning, I said, that's it, I'm done. Nobody knew I was dieting anyway.
Yeah.
So eventually, a friend of mine had reached out to me, and he told me that he had lost 10 pounds doing this thing. And I said, I don't care what your thing is, I'm sure it works. Just do it with me. And he said, okay, that's interesting. And I basically explained to him, I said that I just need somebody to do this with, and I need to learn. And that was perfect. So he got me hooked up into this plan. I learned how to eat regular foods, add in nutrition strategically, and I went on to slowly add in a little bit of exercise. Through that, with the new energy that I was having, I lightly went to the gym a little bit here and there. I didn't want to get hurt. I was a little intimidated, to be honest with you, a little scared of the gym.
Sure.
And eventually, I got hooked up into triathlons.
Wow.
I know. It was quite a thrill. My first triathlon, I finished in second to last place. They had already taken down the finish line.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but I did it without.
Finished.
I finished without the paramedics. That's what my goal was. But I got hooked.
Yeah.
Crossing a finish line was just amazing. And I got hooked. I had the energy to keep going. And I went on to do 5 triathlons in the past 2.5 years. And I went on to lose 103 pounds.
That is crazy.
Thank you. I've kept it off. And now I pay it forward to help other people learn how to not diet.
Yeah.
And it's been a fantastic journey.
That's it. But how long did it take you from start to finish to lose all the weight?
Okay, well, I lost the initial 102 pounds in 11 months, but I was very focused. I did it the healthy way. My doctor was in shock when he saw me. I went and got a physical, and I showed him everything that I was doing, and he just gave me thumbs up. He did my blood work and everything. He said, keep doing what you're doing. But I always tell everybody, I said, you know, I'm the fine print. You know, results may vary.
Yeah.
Results not typical.
Yeah.
But I was just very focused, and I didn't diet. So the key was just being consistent with that.
Okay, that's good. So there's a lot of myths. There's a lot of charlatans out there. There's a lot of quick fixes out there. I mean, I'm guilty myself of falling into that trap. So what do you think is the biggest myth surrounding weight loss?
I think one of the myths that I've come across that I experienced was that because of genetics, that you're going to be obese the rest of your life. You know, my parents were heavy, and a lot of people said, "Well, you're going to be heavy too. Just deal with it." Obviously, you know, I'm not obese, and I really actually believe that we eat the way our parents taught us to eat. You know, I was 39 years old when I started. I had 39 years of habits, and I think that's the one thing I teach my clients is really the hardest part about doing anything to lose weight, in my opinion, is changing and breaking your habits.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
That is a tough one. Okay, so come on, give us a secret. How do you do it?
Well, I think one of the first things is you have to be ready. You have to be 100% serious. You don't want to go halvesies at it, but rather really be ready, be focused, and be serious. And for me, watching both my parents pass away right in front of me was, the wake-up call that I needed. They both passed at young ages, due to health circumstances. So that was my wake-up call, and I said, I got to get serious. This is running in my family.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. The next thing is, accountability. That is the word I teach all of our teammates. I call my clients teammates because we're all a team. Accountability is key. Accountability means everything. So, for example, when I told you on a Friday night, I would just, look around. I mean, I was literally like that. I mean, make sure my wife wasn't even in the room when I did it. I didn't want to get caught. And I would go, eat and hide. I didn't have the accountability. I didn't have somebody to do it with. I didn't have somebody to teach me, coach me, make sure I stayed on board. If I had a bad day, if I had what I call a bump in the road, some people call it cheating. I don't call it cheating. I'd say it's a little bump in the road. I didn't quit. I had somebody to hold me accountable and keep me going forward in the right direction.
I love that, and I think you bring up a good point. And one of the things you started out when you talked about your journey was you asked your friend to do it with you.
Yes.
And that whole concept of the buddy system. And have you heard about Fitbit?
Oh, sure.
This new, right? This is the next best thing. I just bought it, by the way. Hopefully it'll work. But I think, part of that success is, it's not just a glorified pedometer. It's this whole connection, right, on social media, and it's competition as well. So I can see, well, you've only done 9,000 steps today. I've done 12,000, right? So there's that kind of thing going on. So I think that, I think you make a good point there. I think that the buddy system is important, but it's not so easy to find a buddy to do. I mean, how do you do that? You may be, psyched to get started, but your girlfriend down the road is like, oh, please pass the cheese doodles, right?
Right. So that actually comes up a lot where when I was getting started, a lot of my friends mocked me for it. They joked with me on, on Facebook or other social media. When they'd see me out and about, they would not make it easy for me. And I took it personally. And I realized back then, I had to make the necessary changes to put myself in a situation where I'm okay with that. I can't change all these people. I got to worry about myself, and that's okay. I needed to learn that I am worthy of getting healthy. It's okay. I'm worthy of going out and feeling good about myself. So I didn't really worry too much about all the people out there. I worried about myself. I always encourage all of our teammates to have a friend do this with, but a lot of them say, well, Dan, I can't find somebody. I asked a lot of people, I said, don't worry about it. When they're ready, that's when they're going to succeed. And you don't want somebody to come on board with you if they're not ready. They're going to just pull you down.
Good point.
So I will be their partner. And I actually do this with my teammates.
Okay.
All right? I don't just sit there and say, hey, here you go, here's some instructions. I'm actually doing it hands-on with them.
Okay, so how do you do that? How do you create your team? What's that about?
Okay, so somebody will reach out to me and say, hey, Dan, I saw what you've been doing, or I'm really interested. And the process simply is, the first thing is I want to find out how serious they are. Okay, I'm a free coach. I want somebody to not waste my time.
Right.
All right, the next thing is I don't want for them to waste their time either. Then we will do a wellness evaluation, the free wellness evaluation. I want to find out what's going on with their body, their health, their habits, any kind of health concerns that they have. Then I'll explain to them how we're going to have a game plan that will work around their lifestyle. I also teach them about how not to diet. And that's another huge key. All right, if you're dieting and you're having carrots and celery sticks all day, right, you're going to be in a diet mode, and that hasn't worked for you in the past. You're not getting enough nutrition out of the carrots and celery sticks or just salads all day. You're not getting the necessary sugars, the necessary fats that you need, et cetera. So I teach our teammates, we don't diet. All right, there's a million diet gimmicks out there. We don't diet. You're going to learn and be educated on how to eat real foods throughout the day. And then people start sitting up when I tell them this. They're like, wait, I don't have to do. I said, no, I'm gonna teach you how to eat regular foods. You're gonna go to the supermarket. You're gonna pick them out. I'll even go with you if you want. Right? I'm not gonna charge you. It makes my life easier when they take me to the supermarket and I'm helping them. I help them learn how to read nutrition labels. All right? I don't sit there and I don't do that. I say, hey, and we go through the nutrition label, and then eventually they're picking out the right foods that are strategic for their weight loss. And then I think one of the biggest keys to what the biggest tip that I give everybody is personal development.
Oh, okay.
So I tell everybody, you're going to lose 10 pounds or you're going to lose 50 pounds or whatever it is their goal is. I say to them, how would you like to keep the weight off this time? And they say, well, yeah, of course, great. We need to change what's going on up here. And that is the biggest thing. Personal development, personal development. If they don't learn how to get rid of the negative people out of their lives, as we heard earlier today, okay, we got to get rid of the negative influences and just switch things to positive mode, right? And be positive, and you'll attract positive people to your world. Right? Don't post onto Facebook negative things about traffic, the weather, government, because then you're going to get a lot of people adding to your negativity. Only post positive things. And then positive-minded people will come do this with you. And now you're set up to succeed in the right direction because your whole world is getting cleansed of all that negativity. So we do a lot of personal development on our team, and we're reading books. We get together. We have free game nights, parties. We do free group workouts. And we do all this stuff so everybody feels like a part of a team. Who doesn't like to feel good as part of a team?
That's great.
When we do something by ourselves, we tend to not be impeccable to our word and consistent. When we do it with a team, you feel more motivated and inspired.
I love it.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, but you know, some of us are, you know, over 30, little. And when you get older, a whole other set of things starts happening, right? I mean, you know, maybe you were fine 10 years ago and you were doing XYZ and you're still doing XYZ, but now all of a sudden 10 pounds have crawled up on you. Right. So do you have different modalities or different tactics to address that? When people are feeling like, well, I'm already, you know, eating really healthy and I walk, you know, 2 miles every day and it's still not working.
Right. Well, the key, there's a couple things that you mentioned there is one, you know, if we're talking about age, in people's metabolism, it does slow down as they get older, okay? But what I focus on is what is going into their body first. So if they're putting a lot of sugars or artificial energy into their body, like caffeine or, you know, as I mentioned, sugars, they're going to have this short burst of temporary energy. And it doesn't matter if they're 20 years old or 60 years old. Okay, they're not going to have the energy to go increase their metabolism strategically and consistently throughout the day to feel good. So I tell my older teammates or older clients, don't worry so much about your age because you're going to use that as a block, a negative block, and as an excuse. Okay, but rather, let's just go towards a structured strategic plan, get the necessary nutrition in your body, watch your energy and your metabolism go up, and the weight just starts naturally coming off. It might come off slower for some people than others. It's not a race. And I think one of the biggest things that I teach our teammates is it took you a long time to put that weight on, and it's not going to come off in a couple days. All right. We're also, like me, I was used to doing all these diets and then failing at all these diets. Human nature, we don't want to start something that we've failed at so many times. So we're scared to do it. Come up with a lot of excuses. We'll hide from it. All right. And as you were saying, if one of your girlfriends says, oh, I'm not doing it, I'm going to eat my, you know, it's harder because you're reaching out for somebody to do this with. And that's why I tell everybody, I'm going to do this with you. And when your friends are ready, they're going to come do it with you too. And it just gets a whole lot more fun. We make this a whole lot of fun too. Nobody on our team feels like they're dieting. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, we like that. We like that. All right, so before we finish up, just remind us quickly of those really, you know, short tips so, you know, people can take it seriously, and then, you know, if they want to contact you, I think we're going to put up a graphic and let people know.
So the couple of bullet points, as I mentioned, is make sure that you're 100% serious when you're getting started. You don't want to start until you're serious. All right? You're going to waste your time, and you're setting yourself up for failure. A lot of people, by the way, don't know how to show up and how to be 100% serious. Talk with me. All right, and then we'll figure out what your hurdles are. The second thing is accountability is key. It's one of the biggest things I teach our team. Make sure that you are in a situation where you have the accountability to keep you honest and going straight forward. The third thing I tell everybody is we're not going to diet. All right, dieting fails. Have you ever succeeded with a diet before? Yes, I did. Then why are you talking with me? Because I put 50 pounds on. Then that diet didn't work. It's true. I hear that all the time. And then the last thing is personal development. If anybody wants to keep their results and start going in a positive direction, they got to work on what's going on in their head. Those are the biggest tips that I give
Well
everybody.
said. So if folks want to find more information about Dan and you know all the good work that he's doing, there's a number up on the screen and an email address. You can reach out to him. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us on Good Day Hudson Valley. We hope to see you again soon. Enjoy the spring.